We are recording. Mr. John Cullen, and what day is today? Oh, July 1st. Hey, July. Okay, we're out of game month. And so Saturday, July 1st, 2023 at 2:22 p.m. Eastern time. Um and I got in touch with you through Mr. Dave Collum, who I love, and some people comment whenever I have him on. They're like, I hate Dave's laugh. Dave's laugh is beautiful, and if you're the person that commented that, fuck you. Dave is a pure soul of love and light. But so I didn't really know what we were going to talk about today, and I was just kind of glancing at some of your episodes with Dave, and I was like, the first time I ever had Dave on, I didn't know what he and I were going to talk about, and I think we ended up going for 4 hours from like the Lusitania all the way through COVID, just every like modern kind of conspiratorial thing, and I just so happened to be like looking at a meme of Bohemian Grove, and I was like, I made the thumbnail at like 3 a.m. I was like, I'm just gonna slap that on there, and I feel like John's probably cool enough that he won't care if there's a satanic ritual going on in the thumbnail. But
Yeah,
with that, man, well, I post a live link. How about you introduce yourself, my friend?
sure. Well, again, thanks for having me on the show. I'm,
Yes, sir.
I'm really appreciative of the invitation. Uh, so I'm John Cullen, and I have been an investigative journalist now for about 5.5 years, almost 6 years. And my career in investigative journalism started a bit by accident, the night of the Las Vegas shooting. It
Okay.
happened, right? So I was living overseas. And as that took place at 10 p.m. Las Vegas time, where I was, it was noon. And so as the event was unfolding, it was literally unfolding in real time on Facebook and on Twitter.
Okay.
And so I was in my office and it's 12 noon. And so I'm, wrapped
Yeah.
watching what's happening here, and getting constant updates, and people were doing the live feeds from their phones. And I spent all day watching this thing come together, watched Sheriff Lombardo give his press conferences and all that. And so the stuff that was happening at 1:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the morning Las Vegas time, again, was middle of the afternoon where I was. So this was not a big stretch to just sit there and watch it all kind of unfold. And I started getting into shooting as a recreational target shooter when I first moved to California. Funny enough, I moved to California from New York, and at the time, California gun laws in the 80s were much more relaxed than New York. And so the minute I got to California as an adult young man, the first thing I bought was a Walther PPK, right? A James Bond's gun, right? So that's the first thing you're supposed to get is a James Bond Walther PPK. So I got one of those, and I got a Colt 45 National Match pistol, some lessons, and started to get into target shooting a bit. And then after September 11th, I got into long guns and rifles, and I started to shoot it at longer distances. And then a couple years ago, I got into shooting at great distances, 600 yards, 1,000 yards, stuff like that. And so with the Las Vegas shooting, there was just like ballistic aspects to what was happening on film. It wasn't consistent with the narrative. In other words, the rate of fire and things like that. That somebody who's somewhat trained in this stuff hears it, and so a lot of the military guys were commenting.
Yeah.
And the net of it is, and the reason that I'm incognito is I'm the guy that came up with the Saudi assassination theory for the
Oh,
Las
all
Vegas
right.
shooting.
Okay, that's
Right, so
cool.
I'm
I remember reading that. Like, yeah, I
all right.
remember reading that years ago. Okay, that's cool.
All right. So the thing is that there was a bit of disinformation that was planted very early about that, that showed some footage of a guy walking through the lobby of the
Hmm.
Tropicana. And that had nothing to do with it. Turns out that's an employee of the Tropicana. So that's like this purposeful disinformation counterintelligence type stuff, where somebody plants this seed and puts these two things together. That was a guy named Jason Buff who worked at the Tropicana. So the net of it is, I solve the case and publish my thesis. I think it was November 11th of 2017, and I named names. So whereas some investigators, for example, a friend of mine, Laura Loomer, says it was ISIS and kind of leaves it there. I named people, and the people that I named are a little bit older, so they're more Al Qaeda oriented.
Yeah.
So the net of it is that the Las Vegas shooting was an Al Qaeda event, and it was an assassination attempt on MBS, the Crown
Yeah.
Prince. All right. So I'm the guy who published all that. I'm the guy who published the helicopter stuff that
Hmm.
shows that the shooting was an aerial attack from helicopters. And all that material is on YouTube. And surprisingly, a fair amount of it is still there. So the name of the channel on YouTube is John E. Hoover. And that's J. Edgar Hoover's real name.
Yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover's real name is John. So John Edgar Hoover. And I figured I'm going to kind of create an alternate universe, kind of like what the FBI could have been, should have been, where they actually show you what they're doing and say, here's the work we did this week. Here's what we found. We located this. We found that. It looks like it might be this. We're going to be digging into this and this and this. And that's effectively what I did throughout the investigation. And by November 11th, it was pretty clear what had happened.
Yeah.
And so by that time, I named names. As I said, Maiteb bin Abdullah, Mohammed bin Nayef, Mansour bin Mukran. I started listing all the people that had a role in this. And one of those people is Al-Walid bin Talal. Al-Walid bin
Yeah.
Talal is the biggest shareholder in Twitter.
Yeah. He's
All
got
right,
that
one of the
plane with
biggest.
the private throne in the center of it.
The only plane to leave U.S. airspace September 12th.
Ooh.
The only plane
Ooh.
to leave American airspace.
I'm sure
The
no
next day.
coincidence is there. The billionaire
The
Saudi.
only plane. The only plane.
That's what we call a funny coincidence.
Kingdom Holdings.
Yeah.
So I name names, and these people that I'm naming, they were the heads of Saudi intelligence, the Saudi Arabian National Guard, and these are the guys who are willing to kill the Crown Prince. So if they're willing to kill the Crown Prince, they'll grease me in 2 seconds. I mean, forget about it, right? So I'm an infidel. I'm an infidel.
And a bunch of country music goers. They don't give a shit.
Right. And I don't know if you heard the story. I don't know. It wasn't even that long ago. Somebody's Ring doorbell cam in Brooklyn picked up an Iranian hit team trying to kill a journalist. So there was like an Iranian journalist in Brooklyn who writes about the Iranian regime, and they sent a hit team to kill her.
Jeez.
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So if Iran can find a journalist in Brooklyn,
they can reach out and touch you. Yeah.
These guys can find me.
Yeah.
So that's why
they
I put
can.
the hat in the glass.
Yeah, they can and they will. Yeah.
Especially since I named names. Now the interesting thing is that the names that I just dropped, Maiteb bin Abdullah, Mohammed bin Nayef, they've been arrested. Maiteb bin Abdullah was the head of the Saudi Arabian National Guard. He's in prison. Mohammed bin Nayef won the George Tenet Award from the CIA for cooperation, and MBS arrested him.
Oof.
So So it appears that the Las Vegas shooting was an assassination attempt on MBS, and that's where I kind of made my bones, so to speak, in investigative journalism. And 2 years after the shooting, I was looking into the support infrastructure in the United States for Al Qaeda, because it turns out that we had the Pensacola shooting, and the Pensacola shooter was Al Qaeda aligned. It turned out, and the FBI admitted that. So I was looking into that support structure and the work of a gentleman named Phil Haney. Phil Haney used to be with Homeland Security, and the FBI says he killed himself with a gunshot to the chest on the side of the road. I'm finding that hard to believe. So that was sort of what I was looking into, and then COVID hit. And I do a podcast every Friday night with a broadcast partner, Jason Goodman, and Jason has a channel and a brand called Crowdsource the Truth, and he does 2 shows a week with Charles Ortel. He has Lee Stranahan, who used to write for Breitbart, and I do a show with him. He's had a number of other people. David Hawkins did a show with him for some time. So we do a show every Friday night, and he said to me, "I'm not buying this COVID thing."
Yeah.
And this is in the very early days, maybe the first week of March.
Yeah.
And he said this whole wet market, a bat was next to the duck cage, and he's like, I'm not buying this. He says,
Yeah.
can you dig into this? And the honest truth was, I had been living in Thailand, and in Thailand, wet markets are where you go get your chicken. Wet
Yeah.
markets are where you go buy your fish. It's like that's where you get it. You go to the wet
Yeah.
market. So to me, I'm used to seeing eels and frogs and turtles and ducks in, right next to each other.
Yeah.
So it seemed perfectly reasonable to me. This whole narrative story of it came from a wet market. I was like, yeah, I've seen what these places look like. I can only imagine the viruses growing down in there,
Sure.
right? Didn't he's not check it out, check it out. So if I can share my screen
Oh
with the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
audience, is that something I can do here?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can
Yeah,
do
let me
that
pull it
screen.
up. And FYI, so I think you and I have like a 2 or 3 second delay. So
Okay.
if some because sometimes I get a delay with guests and it causes a stutter. So if it seems like I'm cutting you off, I'm not. I'm just there's a delay. Just FYI. Yeah. So I gave you screen share. See if you can.
There we go. All right. So what I'm going to share with the audience is a presentation that I gave to a group called Panda. And Panda was
The pandemic group.
the pandemic data analysis group headed
Yeah,
by Nick
Nick
Hudson.
Hudson. Yeah, I've had him on
Yeah.
here a couple times. Hold on,
Okay. So,
let me grab a blanket right off screen. I've got the air conditioner cranking here, and I got all the lights in here. I got to keep the AC blasting, and so I'm always
no, I
doing
know.
this. I'm doing this dance between like it's 80 in my living room and 50 in here. I'm trying to. All right,
I know the drill.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know the
all right,
drill. So Nick Hudson invited me to present these materials I'm about to show you to the group at Panda. And let's see if let me go to a single page here so that you guys can see it like this. This might make some more sense. All right, so the net of this is when my broadcast partner Jason Goodman says to me, take a look at this, I'm not buying the narrative. All right, so I find this map from Johns Hopkins, and they're using this thing on TV, and they're showing this thing in front of Congress. A woman named Lauren Gardner, Dr. Lauren Gardner, is testifying in front of Congress, and they're showing them all this stuff. I built the system.
oh
35 years ago, I worked at Oracle for Larry Ellison.
yeah,
And one of the projects that I worked on was building this mapping system. And so I take one look at this thing, and what you see in front of you right now is March 13th, 2020. This is the day that the President of the United States declared a national emergency. This is the day we shut it down. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Is there anything that kind of jumps out at you about what you see here on this map from Johns Hopkins? Now, remember, Johns Hopkins is an authoritative source, right? We got the WHO, the CDC, and this is Johns Hopkins, right? I mean, this is
Yeah,
as
yeah. Top
authoritative
two,
as
yeah,
it gets, right?
yeah.
And they're
Europe,
showing this thing on
Southeast Asia.
TV,
Yeah,
and they're showing you this on CNN and all that, right?
yeah. Nobody in India, most of Africa, nothing. Australia, nothing. Russia,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So just
Yeah.
Europe, Southeast Asia, a little
Right
bit of
now,
little Middle East.
right? So I take one look at this, one look, 1 second, 1 second. And as the guy who built the system, what's the first thing that I'm looking at this, and the first thing that hits me? Nobody's green. Nobody's yellow. Everybody's red. What?
All right.
What? What? How's everybody red? Nobody's green. Nobody's yellow. Everybody's red. Well, all right. I'm going to drill into this a little bit and take a closer look. Now, you didn't notice. This is very much like, now here's kind of a weird kind of a, I don't know how you would describe this, but it's like an aspect of my background that helps me see things that most people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10 years old, I was a professional magician.
Okay.
I made money. I
Yeah.
got paid to do magic shows as a kid, and went to magic camp
Hell
with
yeah.
Lance Burton.
Okay.
So I've been studying illusions since I was 10, 8 years old, right? And 10, 12 as a teenager, I was pretty badass. I mean, I again, Lance Burton and I went to the same thing, and we competed in presentation events and stuff like that. So I knew magic. If you're looking at marked cards, if you and I are playing a game of poker with marked cards, and I know how to read the marked cards, and you have no idea I've got marked cards, you're looking at it. You're looking at the marked cards.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking right at them. You're looking at the thing that I see and tells me exactly what you have in your hand. So I'm looking at you, the backs of your cards. You're looking at the backs of mine, and you see what I see. But I know how to read the back of your card, and I can tell exactly what you have and that you have nothing in your hand. And that's what's happening right now as you and I are looking at this map.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see what I see because I built it.
Yeah.
So what do I see? I know how to read the back of the card. I can tell you this is the Queen of Hearts. Now,
Okay.
how is that? Okay. Because if you look real closely, you ready for the goosebumps? You ready to
Mm-hmm.
get the chills?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is March 13th, 2020. The President of the United States is declaring a national emergency based on this. There are not 10 people dead in Beijing, Hong Kong, or Shanghai.
Of all of this.
Now, the reason is also because I'm kind of stupid. I never heard of Wuhan. So when they told
Yeah.
me that there was all these people dead in Wuhan, where the hell is Wuhan? I never heard of Wuhan. And I've been to China.
Yeah.
I have a visa to China, and I never heard of Wuhan.
It's not
So I
necessarily
said,
like a big metropolis though, right?
no, actually, it's bigger than New York City. 10 million
What?
people. 10 million
All right.
people live in Wuhan. Oh,
Never
yeah.
mind. Never mind.
Yeah. So I said, but I'd never even heard of Wuhan. So I said, all right, so if this thing is ravaging China, ravaging Wuhan, what the hell must be happening in Hong Kong? And I go over to Hong Kong, and there's not 10 people dead. And why is it all red then? And I click on Shanghai, and there's not 10 people dead in Shanghai. And I click on Beijing, and there's not 10 people dead in Beijing. I said, is nobody looking at this thing? Like, is everybody just looking at this at arm's length and not actually clicking on the dots? Nobody knows how to click on the dot that says Shanghai. You don't know how to do that and get the numbers? I'm the only guy who knows how to do this? From 35 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
all the user conferences that ESRI has had, I'm the only guy who's looked at Shanghai? There's not 10 people dead in Hong Kong, Tommy. What the hell?
So to play devil's advocate as someone like me, when you point out no green, no yellow, no anything, to me, I'm looking at it and go, well, it might just be that they're not using, and I just playing devil's advocate is they're just using whichever color, and it's more about the size of the circle, and they're just trying to illuminate where cases are. Because right, it says total
And that's
confirmed on
right.
the left side.
But yes. So the size of the circle is the number of cases.
Yeah.
That's
So I
exactly
just
right.
so just yeah, no, that's just me playing devil's advocate. Obviously,
But that's
you know
poor design. That's
no, no,
poor
no,
design.
sure, but it
Now,
might
let me
just
give you another example. I'm
all
going to give
right.
you another example. All right. So look at Vietnam. You see the red dot on Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam has nobody dead. Zero. So my feeling, I don't care how many cases you have. If
Yeah.
no one's dead,
Well, that's
you're
something
still
that's anyone with a brain was thinking that later on. They're like, there's 19 new cases. It's like, well, who's dead? Yeah, no. Yeah,
right. All
I
right.
had it. It was whatever. I missed work for a week. Okay.
So I'm looking at these countries and saying, wait a second, why is everything so red if there's no one dead there? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, look at it. There were 2 people dead in India,
Yeah.
and it's red. You don't get a yellow with 2 people dead. This design is wrong. The first thing I said when I looked at this is, whoever designed this to panic everybody.
Well,
Why is
yeah.
everything red?
Yeah.
This
Well,
is designed to panic people.
scary
And
colors.
again, as the designer, or so that's a problem, right? Well, it turns out the guy who designed the map at Johns Hopkins is a Chinese national named En Shengdong, a PhD student from China, did the configuration.
Okay.
Not from Kosovo,
Yeah.
not from Croatia, not an
Yeah.
Italian kid,
Yeah.
not a kid from Ghana on an exchange from
From
China.
China, and
From
so
China.
and yeah, so PhD student. So homie
Yeah.
knows what he's
So,
doing.
well, and maybe just because they like the color red in China.
Maybe.
The,
All
the
right.
the the lanterns are all red, so there you go.
Sure.
So what I started to do is I started to dig into, well, what respiratory stuff was going on before coronavirus, before this thing showed up? What respiratory stuff killed people? Tuberculosis, RSV, Coxsackie, influenza. I don't know what's going on. Well, I found a system that tracks this stuff called PNI, which is pneumonia and influenza. And it seems that this is how the CDC tracks influenza, like the USTA keeps score in tennis. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's how they keep score. Like if the first time you find out that the score in the game is love 40, you're like,
Well, fuck yeah.
why? You mean it's 3-0, right? It's
Yeah.
3-0. No, it's love 40, right? So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's how they do it. Well, the same
Yeah.
thing is true with the CDC. They track influenza deaths by lumping together pneumonia and influenza because it's kind of a 1-2 punch, and they call it PNI. Now, they've been doing this since the 2009 H1N1 swine flu pandemic. So that's when they kind of started doing this, was right after that. And what I found, the system that tracks PNI deaths. And what I found was that in January, February, and March of 2020, 4,000 people were dying a week of influenza, PNI, whatever they call this thing, right? I mean, this
Hmm.
lumped together thing. So 4,000 people a week were dying. And that had not been, it's like 4,000 people a week. That's a lot of people dying from this stuff. And this is before COVID. Well, I start tracking that. And everybody else is looking at COVID. And I said, no, 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 no. This is your elephant.
Mm.
This is your elephant. This is it. You've got 4,000 people a week dying from this. And all of a sudden, something shows up from China, of course, from the boogeyman. Huh. Well, I keep an eye on this PNI thing, and what you're looking at right now are PNI deaths in America going back to 2013.
Hmm.
The peak in the middle, where it says weekly PNI deaths, there's like a little legend in the middle. It says
Hmm.
weekly PNI deaths. The peak right below that is 2017, 2018. And Dr. Fauci, in a PBS special, tells us in that year it was particularly bad. 80,000 people died.
It's globally
80,000. All
or
right. So
US only.
US.
Gotcha.
So if that peak right below the little legend there that says weekly PNI deaths, if that peak in the middle was 80,000, what the hell are these out to the right?
Yeah.
More than 80,000.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
not
So
not
what that
18, 13, 9, 4.
right. Now, so that's sort of the next aspect of this is as I start digging into this influenza stuff.
Hold on, can you go back one?
Yeah.
Why does it get thinner as it goes to the right? It's like fat, like three-dimensional.
Oh, that's like a
That's just
3D effect. That's the
gotcha.
lighting and the 3D and the channel, and you're
Gotcha.
basically, if I
Gotcha.
were moving it, that
I
wouldn't
wasn't
really
sure
be.
if it was like volume or something.
No. It's a 3D lighting
Gotcha.
thing. All right. So here I'm laying in now COVID deaths on top of those PNI deaths. So COVID shows up like hell on wheels out of nowhere. Just like we go from
Hmm.
0 to 100 miles an hour in 1.2 seconds. It's like,
Yeah.
vroom, and we've
Yeah.
got everybody's dying of COVID instantly. Didn't ramp up in any kind of normal way, which seemed odd. And one of the things that we heard from Dr. Birx was we count liberally. If somebody has this and this and this, and they test positive for COVID and
Yeah,
they
they died of
die,
COVID.
we're going to count that as a COVID death, like
Yeah.
George Floyd. George
Yeah.
Floyd counted as a COVID death, right?
No, he
So,
didn't.
yes, he did.
No,
Yes,
he
he did.
didn't.
Yes, he did. He tested positive. That counts it from there. Not as far as primary cause of death, but he's in the
Counted as
green.
a code.
Right. That's the
Jesus.
point here. So the point is he's in this green group. And so what people are saying, come on, 1.2 million people died of COVID in the United States. 500 something thousand died in India. India has 4.5 times our population.
Yeah.
How does India have half the deaths? If they have 4.5 times our population, they got half as many people dead in India, and they're swimming in the Ganges.
Devil's advocate. I mean, just that play devil's advocate. I mean, I don't know. We're much fatter. We're much more unhealthy. In fact, I
So
mean,
you
not that
would,
I believe that. It's but I just just throwing it out. I always do that during the conversation. I'll just throw out the
oh, that's fine.
proposing just for the
So
sake
so
of it.
we'll compare. So hold on to that for a minute. Hold on to that thought, and we'll compare the American public health response to COVID to a couple other countries, and you won't be terribly proud of our public health system. All right. So what you're seeing here is sort of the basis of the hypothesis, and the hypothesis is Dr. Fauci was about to experience a global influenza pandemic of a strain of his creation, something from one of their labs. And so he needed another
The scapegoat.
pandemic
All right.
to cover up
All right.
his disaster.
Yeah.
Now, the
You
way
gotta
I was
have a
able to,
Stephen Paddock to cover up an assassination
yeah,
attempt.
right. So you have to have a little bit
A
of a
big old
scapegoat.
patsy.
And this was the conversation that I had with Dave Cullen. So Dave and I sit down to talk about the Vegas shooting first, and then I said to Dave, I built the mapping system that they were using at Johns Hopkins, and when you see the data and you realize there's nobody dead in Shanghai.
I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw. Keep interrupting you because I'm an asshole. That I think today. I mean, somebody, one of my guys texted me late last night and said, so this was this was the 29th, so 2 days ago. WikiLeaks just dumped all of their files online, everything from Hillary, blah 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 blah. Vegas shooting done by FBI sniper. So kind of a coincidence that I have you on today, and that was dropped. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a community note on that tweet
Yeah.
that said this information came out a while ago. This isn't a new
Oh, okay.
drop. And the part where Julian Assange says that it was an FBI sniper, Julian Assange was quoted saying that the FBI tends to do these types of events. And somebody's interpreting that as
Gotcha.
so
Very loosely. Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
All
So
right.
there's not like a document of an FBI. There's nothing. He's made a
Gotcha.
comment and saying
Gotcha.
events like this are often false flag type events.
So I'm the low hanging fruit. I'm grabbing the headline. Damn,
No, not even.
they
Not
got
even.
me.
I
No,
think
they
he
got me.
just
I'm
said it
guilty.
extemporaneously, and somebody else grabbed that and turned it into something that it's not. I think that's what is happening here. And it's it's getting some attention. So the net of this is so here's sort of a straw man. So one of the methods that I used in business was something they call the McKinsey method. And the McKinsey method is you begin with a straw man, right? And you start with that and you work through it. And as soon as you run into something that doesn't hold water or whatever, then you got to, come up with a different straw man, right? That sounds like it might fit better. So the straw man here is back in 1999, Dr. Fauci sent a guy named Johan Holton to Alaska to dig up an Inuit woman that died in 1918 from the Spanish flu. They dug her up out of the permafrost. And using garden shears, because the bodies are in permafrost.
You're right. You're
It's
right.
like
No,
frozen.
yeah, no, perfectly. Sorry, dumb question.
Right. You're preserved. It's like being in a freezer for 100 years. So they dig her up out of the permafrost and using garden shears, they cut out her lung tissue
Jesus.
and bring it back to Walter Reed.
All right.
To two of my favorite guys. These are fun guys. These are guys you want to party with. If you're going to have a barbecue 4th of July, you want Jeffrey Taubenberger and Terrence Tumpy, because these are the two guys who take the lung tissue from Alaska, put it into the gene sequencer, and sequence the 1918 Spanish flu. Ray Kurzweil, the
Yeah.
guy who, all right, so Ray
Singularity
Kurzweil,
is near.
exactly, he invents the Braille reading machine. He
Yeah.
invented the
Steve.
scanner.
Yeah.
The top deck of every copy machine, that's Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah.
The glass on a copy machine, the glass thing, Ray Kurzweil patented that. That's his thing.
It's also
And he
into
invented,
hyper longevity and
yes,
biogerontology.
and he's a Google Fellow.
Yeah.
So Ray Kurzweil, Google Fellow, writes an op-ed for the New York Times in 2005, because by 2005, Terrence Tumpy, Jeffrey Taubenberger, and Dr. Fauci and Francis Collins have finished this Frankenstein project, and they're done. And they have resurrected the 1918 H1N1 virus. It's classified as BSL-4, the same as Ebola, Marburg, Lassa virus, I think. And they publish the genome in the public domain on whatever the equivalent of GenBank was in 2005. So they publish it, and Ray Kurzweil puts out an op-ed on the New York Times, and he gets Bill Joy, the co-founder of Sun Microsystems, Sun Computers. So Bill Joy was one of the founders of Sun, and Bill Joy and Ray Kurzweil co-author this thing. It's published in the New York Times. That the title of the story is "Recipe for Destruction" by Ray Kurzweil. And I read that on my channel. So on the Johnny Hoover channel on YouTube, I do this series called Bedtime Stories, where I read stuff and put people to sleep. And one of the stories that I read is his Recipe for Destruction. And basically what he's saying is Dr. Fauci and Francis Collins are off the reservation. They're resurrecting the deadliest virus on Earth.
What's the name
They're
of that
going to do
channel?
Yeah. I beg your pardon?
So you got it. You have another channel, a bedtime channel.
No, meaning I did a series of videos on the Johnny Hoover channel. So when you go to YouTube and you go to
Gotcha.
my channel called Johnny Hoover,
Yeah.
There's a series of videos I do called Bedtime Stories, and the thumbnails
Gotcha.
are blue. They're blue
Gotcha.
thumbnails.
Just making
And
sure I
I'm
have
reading,
it in the
I
description.
read a bunch of documents and stuff. And so in this case, I'm reading this story. So the net of this is they resurrect the 1918 Spanish flu. Ray Kurzweil from Google says, don't do it. Bill Joy from Sun says, don't do it. You guys are out of your minds. This is the viral equivalent of Jurassic Park. It's like, well, why don't you guys just resurrect the Tyrannosaurus Rex, you morons? What are you doing? It's the deadliest virus we've ever seen from a respiratory virus. Smallpox and H1N1 are the two deadliest viruses that have ever been on Earth. And these guys take exception to it. This is 2005. Well, in 2017, just 12 years later, Dr. Fauci at Georgetown University predicts a surprise epidemic for the incoming administration.
There will be a pandemic.
Everybody knows there's going to be a surprise outbreak.
Yeah.
Everybody knows there's going to be a surprise outbreak.
Dr. Bragan covers it very extensively in his book, COVID-19 Global Predators, We Are the Prey. Eerily breaks it down. Fauci talking.
All right, but here's the part he missed. This is the part he missed. The part he missed is what you see on the screen. 4,000 people were dying a week in January. That's not COVID. There's 10 people dead in Beijing. There's 10 people not. The 7, 9, there's single digits. We've got single digits dead in Beijing, single digits in Shanghai, single digits in Hong Kong. Why are 4,000 people dying a week in January in America?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on? So part of my training is you have to go backwards. You got to go back in time. So you go to summer of 2019. And you say, well, what the hell was going on in the summer of 2019?
Ooh, it's getting spicy. It's getting spicy.
Australia Australia was having the worst influenza outbreak in the last 100 years. 6 times more people died than the previous year.
Uh-oh.
600% more deaths in Queensland than the previous year in the summer of 2019. Well, wait a second. What else was happening in the southern hemisphere in the summer? Argentina, Chile, and South Africa were all having the worst influenza outbreak they've seen in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Wow. That's coincidental. And they all sent a team to Wuhan to wrestle.
At
Uh-oh.
the what was it, the
The
military games?
Wuhan military games take place
Yeah.
in October
Uh,
2019.
oh
So
Lord.
everybody who's sick in August and September is bringing a pathogen to Wuhan from Argentina, Chile, South Africa, and Australia. Now, I'm not an epidemiologist, but apparently I play one on YouTube. They go to the Wuhan games. They wrestle, they swim, they do judo, they do all the stuff that they do. Wow, what a perfect super spreader event. The Wuhan military games are like the Olympics. The stadium seats 100,000 people. There's 10,000 athletes from around the world, and they are all military. How did this thing get onto the ships? Everybody's wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they were all military. Huh. Okay. January 2020, 4,000 people are dying from P&I every week. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, by January 21st, there's as many people dead in 3 weeks in 2020 as died from the entire 2009 swine flu pandemic. In the U.S., according to the CDC, the 2009 swine flu pandemic killed 12,000 people. And by the third week in January, we've got 12,000 dead. And Dr. Fauci wasn't panicking, or was he? He wasn't panicking, or was he? Wait a second. He wasn't? Or was he? Did Dr. Fauci need a scapegoat virus to cover up the fact that if anybody realized it was the virus that he resurrected, that Ray Kurzweil said, don't do it, you dumbass? Ray Kurzweil said if this thing gets out, 5 to 10 million people could die. Dr. Fauci needed a scapegoat virus. So who do you call if you need a virus like one of your viruses? Who do you call? Peter Daszak at EcoHealth.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, yo, Pete, this is not an email. I want you to meet me at Central Park because, EcoHealth's offices are in New York City, like on 34th Street or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Or 35th or 36th Street or something. So you say to Peter Daszak, meet me in Central Park. You and I are going to go for a walk. This is not an email conversation.
No.
And I don't want the guys at 33 Thomas Street recording this on the cell phone. We're going to take a walk together.
Is that the NSA building?
The AT&T, the AT&T
that giant windowless, nuclear proof.
That's where everything is recorded.
That dystopian tower.
Yes, it's just one big hard drive. It's just one.
That thing is terrifying. If anyone hasn't ever looked that up before, look that up. That
33
building,
Thomas Street.
It looks like some shit out of Lord of the Rings.
I think Laura Poitras, did a documentary called Project X about it. And it was part of the disclosure. The Project X drawings and everything were part of Edward Snowden's disclosure. It's a fascinating film. It's a short film. It's like a 9-minute documentary on 33 Thomas Street called Project X. And I think Laura Poitras put it together, but I could be wrong. Yeah. And it's part of the Edward Snowden disclosure. So anyway, net of this here is, if Dr. Fauci is trying to cover up a pandemic, how do you do that? Well, this is where me being a magician comes back into play. How do you hide a pandemic? Well, it's kind of like hiding an elephant, or it's the same stuff. It's like, okay, how do you? All right, so how do I hide a pandemic? Step 1, I need another pandemic. I need an alternate pandemic. Ideally, one with a completely different name from a completely different family. In other words, I don't want to cover up an influenza virus with another influenza virus,
Yeah.
or everybody's going to kind of figure that out. But if I had a coronavirus, and nobody's ever even heard of that, and it looks identical,
Yeah.
meaning the thing I say to Peter Daszak is, I need people to develop pneumonia.
Same symptoms. Yeah.
Yes, right, exactly. And Daszak says, "Oh yeah, Peter Hotez and the gang, they've been working on something with the Chinese out at Wuhan on this thing. It's perfect." And what Fauci needs, and this is, I had a conversation with Dr. Tal Braun, and he and I kind of came to this loose hypothesis together. If you were trying to pull a virus out of the catalog to cover up for your disaster, your Frankenstein that's about to kill everybody, wouldn't you want something that had kind of a couple bells and whistles on it to get people's attention, like a little rattling thing on it, like a CGG sequence that everybody's going to see that and freak out and go, wait a second, this has got a sequence. What do you mean it's got a furin cleavage site on it? This didn't come from the This whole conversation has been the red herring. And the more people talk about Wuhan and SARS-CoV-2 and furin cleavage sites and CGG and raccoon dogs and bats and viruses and Dr. Fauci is, thank God.
Yeah.
Because nobody's mentioned Jeffrey Taubenberger. Nobody's mentioned that 4,000 people were dying a week in January, February. And then we get into, well, wait a second. Weren't we overcounting? Weren't we counting these COVID deaths like, everybody was? So what if we counted the COVID deaths like other countries? What would it look like? Well, Nigeria doesn't have 4,000 people dead. Pakistan, that has over 220 million people, has fewer dead than Ohio. Nigeria has fewer dead than Rhode Island. And Ethiopia, with 110 million people and 6 toilets, has fewer dead than Connecticut.
Yeah.
Now, what that tells me is we're overcounting COVID deaths. Now, why are we overcounting COVID deaths? To hide the blue pandemic. If you count all of these people as having died with COVID, well, now it looks like you got a pretty bad COVID pandemic, doesn't it? Yes, it sure does. It sure does look that way. You can't hide the blue pandemic without a green pandemic. You need a green pandemic, and you need to overcount this green pandemic. You're going to need to count all of these
every death,
influenza deaths as a green death, and that's why they look so similar. The first thing Dave Collum says to me is, how come these things match? It's like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers here. How do these things go in toe-to-toe like this? Oh, because you're counting all the influenza deaths as COVID deaths. Of course. Of course. Of course they look alike. This is the last 5 years. Now here comes a nice gut punch. You ready to get nauseous? P&I has killed more people every week in the United States than COVID since March of 2022.
Say that again.
P&I has killed more, that's the blue, has killed more people than the green. And the green is all deaths with COVID, including motorcycle accidents and decapitations. And the guy from the NFL who just drowned, if he tests positive for COVID, he's green. And there's more people dying of P&I. Every single week here, going back to March of 2022. March of 2022, the green is bigger than the blue. That means that the all deaths with COVID was more than P&I deaths for that week. But in March of 2022, they changed. It flipped. And all of a sudden, the P&I deaths were exceeding the COVID deaths. The problem is Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Richard Urso, Aaron Kheriaty, none of these guys are really looking at this data. They're all so focused on the vaccines and all that kind of stuff. And the net of it is influenza P&I has been killing more people than COVID for well over a year now. And I don't think physicians are aware of it. And therefore, they're not treating it, obviously, because more people are dying from it. If they were treating it, there wouldn't be that many people dying from it. So here comes the next gut punch. This is kind of a kidney shot. So you ready for this one? You were talking about in India, they're probably healthier, not quite as obese. Well, what do most people think is the number one comorbidity in the United States of COVID? What does most of the audience think? Do you have a live feed? Do you have a live chat there? Can you
Live,
see
we can check. Well, there's
see what the guys in Rum? Is there a
there's
live chit chat?
there's a
See whatever.
there's a delay, but we'll see what they say.
That's okay.
I'm
See what
gonna,
people
yeah.
think. What is the number one comorbidity of COVID in the United States?
Let's see.
And dying, we know that, right? So being dead, we know that. But what is the number one
Do you think?
comorbidity?
What's the number? I'll ask. What's the number one? I've never actually asked everybody comorbidity. I don't think I've ever actually asked the live chat. I normally ignore the live chat because
Yeah, me too. I can't keep track of all that
well, no,
stuff.
to
I,
me, I always think it's rude to the guest if I'm like playing with the live chat. Plus, I attract a disproportionate number of crazy people
yeah, yeah,
doesn't
same.
matter who my guest is. They're like, "How come you're not talking about how the Jews run the world?" I'm like, "Can you
Right, right,
fuck
right,
off for
right.
once? Just for once?
Exactly.
Can we not
Yeah.
talk about?" All right. Well, I posed
So
a
no, I know
question,
what you
so
mean.
yeah.
But
So I don't know.
I want to see what people think it is, because I think, again, there's a misperception here
I
that
would say for me, I would say uh obesity. But hey, if we're gonna wait for them to answer real quick, hey, give me 30 seconds. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. And guys, if you go to the
that's fine.
description, you can find all of John Cullen stuff. But your show for 30 seconds, man. Say whatever you want.
Sure. So let me just walk everybody through this one more time. So what this is and what this is showing are weekly deaths from what the CDC calls PNI, pneumonia and influenza. So PNI is pneumonia and influenza. And the reason they lump them together, I guess, is because it's a 1-2 punch. Influenza brings on the pneumonia, and pneumonia is what kills you. So when I saw these massive peaks off to the right with that, and how it aligned with the COVID deaths in green. Now, this is all deaths with COVID. Let me see if I have a clip here that I can play for you guys.
The idea that we are now a few days away from a new administration, to the topic today is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. Tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind there will be a surprise outbreak. There's no doubt in anyone's mind there will be a surprise outbreak.
Now, I edited that
There's no doubt
together.
in anyone's mind.
Yeah, so I edited that together so he didn't repeat it again and again. I don't want people to think that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I edited that a bit, but that's that foreknowledge.
Okay.
So
So in the live
so
chat, we
it's
see number one. Somebody says diabetes. Drew Bob
mhm,
says old age. Seven Dust says heart conditions. 14320 says age, inflammation, elderly. Sense of Police says diabetes. So diabetes, old age, heart conditions, age, inflammation, elderly, those over 81. So
obesity. Yeah. So the old age part, it isn't really considered a comorbidity. So that's not something that, that would kind of be natural causes. So and yet it's true. So if we look at the age breakdown of the deaths in the United States, absolutely it skews towards people over 60 in a massive way.
yeah.
But that's not really one of the things that the CDC tracks as a comorbidity. So amongst the ones that you listed that are in fact comorbidities, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, things of that nature, the number one comorbidity, you ready?
Yeah.
Drum roll. Can we get a drum roll, please? The number one comorbidity is influenza pneumonia.
Fuck.
It's PNI. Well, how the hell is that? How the hell's it P&I?
Doesn't seem like a comorbidity. That seems like a cause.
All right, so wait a second. Let's read what the CDC said here. Let's read the fine print. And so are these guys covering this up and just showing you how they covered it up? Like, yes.
Yeah, that's the
Look
best
what
way
it
to
says
hide
up
the
top.
conspiracy, man, is put it in
Right.
plain sight.
Exactly. So look what it says up top. For 5% of these deaths, now they say over 5%, meaning it's like 5.1, 5.2. They couldn't say 6, so it's not 6%. It's 5 point something percent. So we're going to just say 5%. For 5% of these deaths, COVID-19 is the only thing mentioned on the death certificate. All right, now there's 1.2 million dead in America. 5% of that is 60,000. 60,000 people have death certificates that say this person died from COVID-19. Now let's read the next sentence. For deaths with conditions or causes in addition to COVID-19, on average, there were 4 additional conditions or causes per death on average. So that means 95%, 1.2 million minus 60,000, right? So that's 1.1 something million people have 4 comorbidities on average. So that means for every person that's got 3 comorbidities, somebody's got 5. And for everybody who's got 2, somebody's got 6. And for everybody who's got just 1 comorbidity, there's somebody's got 7, because the average is 4. And the number 1 comorbidity by a mile and a half,
P&I.
not diabetes, not obesity, not heart disease, pneumonia and influenza, with over 525,000 death certificates. Wait a second. 60,000 death certificates just say COVID-19. 525,000 say influenza, pneumonia, and COVID-19? And which one are you calling the comorbidity? There's 30,000 dead in Pakistan.
Yeah.
There's 30,000 dead in Bangladesh. Nigeria is not even at 4,000. Beijing doesn't have 50 dead today. There's not 50 dead in Beijing. Shanghai doesn't have 1,000 dead today. There's not 1,000 people dead in Shanghai
From COVID.
And for the people who say China's lying, that's the conspiracy theory. I'm citing the data from the WHO. I'm citing the data from Johns Hopkins. I'm citing the official stuff. If the conspiracy theory that China's lying, and they start telling me, well, cell phone coverage, and we saw a lot of smoke coming out of chimneys.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the 40 million
That's conspiracy crap. Come on.
But it doesn't matter so long as we're all talking about something else.
Exactly. And as long as you're all talking about Wuhan and bats and Dr. Shi and Peter Daszak
and Bill Gates and it's all
and all that crap, you're not talking about Walter Reed. And as long as you're not talking about Walter Reed and Fort Detrick, they closed Fort Detrick in the summer of 2019. What the hell what was that all about?
Good, and I think it's genius, and it'd be like if India did 9/11 and everyone's arguing, was it Taliban or was it the CIA?
Or Osama bin Laden or the Saudis, and it was really India.
In reality,
exactly. It was Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you get into all these micro arguments of, well, were the planes remotes or were they holograms or was there thermite? But it doesn't matter because you're never once even touching the fact that it was. So It's brilliant. It's evil, but it's brilliant.
It is. Oh, wait, do you see how evil it is? I'm going to show you how evil and brilliant it is.
Gotta respect the enemy, though, man. They're good at it.
Oh, wait do you see? And there's a couple characters here who are so brilliant and so evil. It's kind of stunning.
Yeah.
And so again, how do you hide a pandemic? How do you hide? So first you need this alternate pandemic, right? You need this other one to cover it up, right? So I need a green pandemic. So I call Peter Daszak. Daszak, I got exactly what you want. I got the perfect thing. It's got CGG. It's got a fear and cleavage site. In fact, it's got the GP120 sequence on it. So anybody who remembers what we did with HIV, they're gonna zoom in on the GP120. Everybody who knows about the fear and cleavage site is going to zoom in on the CGG sequence. It's perfect. If you need something to get their attention, I got just the thing for you. You can't hide the blue pandemic without the green pandemic. Okay? So, this is what was happening in those first couple weeks of 2020. And this was the thing that tipped me off. And this, again, it's because this was my career in data analysis and stuff like that. What you're looking at, this chart of blue and green, the blue is historic. Historic. Now, the only way to know that is to baseline it. You have to look at the prior 10 years of data. And when you look at the prior 10 years of data, what you realize, there's never been 12 weeks in a row of 4,000 people dying of PNI, and then it went up. That's never happened in recorded history at the CDC. And so when I saw that happen, I said, what the hell is going on here? Why did they just drop this influenza thing like a hot potato? There's nobody dead in China outside of this Wuhan. Who heard of Wuhan? Tell me about Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing. Wake me up when each one of those gets to 10 or 20,000 dead. When you get 10 or 20,000 dead in Hong Kong, Beijing, Shanghai, let me know.
Yeah.
We're at less than 10. But this is what's happening in the States. And on March 13th, the president declares a national emergency. So now you start digging into all this influenza stuff, and you say, but wait a second, I thought like 20,000 people died of the flu every year, 20, 30, 40,000. Oh boy, this is where you find how Fauci has built himself. It's like he set this thing up over the course of 10 years, basically. After the 2009 H1N1 swine flu pandemic, when 12,000 people died, supposedly, nobody checked their math. Nobody came along and said, 12,000 people died. You just declared a global pandemic and 12,000 people died in America? Nobody challenged him in 2009. I think Cheryl Atkinson's the only one who kind of wrote about it, and I think she got fired for it. So nobody challenges his numbers, and Dr. Fauci realizes the value of being able to undercount influenza deaths. Okay, if he can tell you that 20,000 people were dying a year, but it's really 200,000, he can create a pandemic at the drop of a hat. Because every year he really has 200,000 people dying, and he's telling you it was 20,000, 30,000, 20,000,
Gotcha.
30,000, 40,000. I'm going to show you how he does it. I'm going to show you exactly how he did it. They do it using a term. The meme on the left was published by the CDC, and they call it the burden of flu. The burden of flu. What is influenza burden? Influenza burden is a technical term that the CDC uses, and the document on the right defines influenza burden. When I showed this to Dave Cullen, he about fell out of his chair. He was hysterical. He's like, this is like a joke. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. This makes no sense. What are they doing here? This is where the CDC contracted to have a paper written by 10 or 12 people to define something called influenza burden, and it is a formula. It is a derived value, and the top of the pyramid is how many people died, but they're looking at how many were hospitalized, number of symptomatic illnesses, calculate the illnesses equal, multiply by ratio cases to hospital. This is nonsense. I know mathematics. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. Influenza burden is a shell game. They can't show you the math to get to 22,000. Do you know how many people actually died of PNI in the year that they claimed 22,000 died? How many actually died of PNI? 275,000 people. They can't show you the math to get from 275,000 to 22,000 because that's the stupid formula right up there. It's absurd. You can't get to 22,000 from 275,000 with this formula. It's absurd. So this notion of burden of flu has been a facade, a shell game, a made up construed value. But because they have the document, because they have this, he's got plausible deniability. So when I confront him, when I testify in front of Congress and I lay this out, he'll say, well, yes, this is exactly what what do you mean you didn't know that's what influenza burden was, Senator Rand Paul? What are you, stupid? You didn't read the paper? When we told you it was influenza burden, what did you think we were talking about? P&I deaths, you dumbass? Of course it was this, you dummy. You didn't read the paper. This is his plausible deniability. So when they tell you 22,000 people died, 275,000 people died of P&I. That 22,000 is this. This is meaningless. What the hell is this? I don't want that. I want to know how many people died. What are you telling me the number of hospitalizations and symptom and adjusted rates of hospital? I don't care about that. I want to know how many people died of the flu.
Yeah.
Why would you make it so complicated? What would you be trying to hide? Well, when Dr. Fauci tells us that 79,400, 80,000 people died of the flu in 2017, 2018, influenza, the severe 2017, 2018 influenza season in the United States, 80,000 total deaths. Typical range, 12,000 to 56,000? No. Here's the math. Here's the real data. I go to the site. I'm ex-Oracle. This doesn't intimidate me. I download the data, throw in Excel. Bump, bump, bump. We're done. The real numbers, 195,000 people died that season. And neither number's 80,000, by the way. So the influenza deaths and the pneumonia deaths, neither one of them is 80,000. Influenza was 15,600. Pneumonia was 180,000. So neither is 80. How the hell does he get to 80? Using that stupid formula? No. They're just pulling these numbers. They're making it up. They're making it up. Now, why would you do that? Because you're not going to be able to sell influenza vaccines if people know that despite everybody taking them, there's still 250,000 people dying every year of the stuff. When people hear, oh, 20,000 people died, it was 40% effective. Oh, gee, I hope it's more effective this year, Margaret, right? No. 200,000 people died, 180,000, 186,000. These are big numbers, but arrives. We know we're overcounting COVID deaths, but nobody was paying attention to this P&I thing but me. I'm watching this. Everybody else is watching bat soup. I'm watching this. And I'm going, I think this is the real pandemic. I think this is the actual pandemic. And I think Dr. Fauci's trying to hide it with a green pandemic from China. So in October of 2020, one of the things I realized was I started to look at, well, what's the influenza story in other countries? And I stumbled across a paper where these guys documented that influenza pretty much disappeared from Australia and Chile and South Africa and the USA. And I thought, well, that's weird. So I go and start looking at that on the WHO's website. So the WHO has a site that shows you influenza specimens for the various countries. So I look at Chile and Australia and South Africa, and USA, and I'm like, wow, man, influenza is just boom, it's gone. That's weird. So I said, well, what the hell happened in France? Well, the same thing. Well, what happened in Norway? The same thing. What happened in Germany? The same thing. Well, why did you guys stop at 4 countries? What, would you have a lunch appointment or something? You had to wrap it up? It was Friday at 5 o'clock, and so, well, we only really got to 4 countries, and so we had to finish the paper. So I take their paper, I cite all of them in their great work, and I said, yeah, the only thing is they missed 104 other countries where the same exact thing happened. And oh, by the way, it happened in 28 days. Influenza was eradicated from Earth in 28 days from over 100 countries with no campaign, no posters, no money, no different dots on the floor, nothing special. and influenza was eradicated from Earth? No effort, by accident? But COVID killed 7 million people with the same thing. So, same social distance, wash your hands, masks, and it eradicated this, but 7 million died of COVID? Yeah? You sure about that? Or is Superman running around and I'm having a hard time finding Clark Kent?
Yeah.
Because I don't see Clark Kent here. Where did Clark Kent go? I don't see Clark Kent. Why is everybody talking about Superman? Where's Clark? Where's Clark? I don't see Clark anywhere. Clark's not here. He's not here. He's not here. He's not here. And he disappeared at the same exact time in 100 countries, huh? And everybody's chasing Superman? I want to know where Clark Kent went. That's pretty dramatic, Switzerland. You eradicated influenza for 2 years with no effort, no focus, no campaign, no posters, no stickers, and it was just gone? That in itself should be a news story. Let's get Christian Amanpour heading to Geneva to find out how did Geneva eradicate influenza at the same time that COVID ravaged Switzerland. How did that happen? Wow, even in Ukraine? Holy mackerel. Even in the United Arab Emirates it happened. And Turkey? Turkey just completely eradicated influenza so quickly, it went from 100 and something specimens to 0 in 1 week. That is so amazing. This is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. They eradicated influenza too. And there's USA. But wait a second. It's the #1 comorbidity according to the coroners. So the coroners are telling us it's the #1 comorbidity. But the World Health Organization is saying, no, it disappeared. Oh, you both can't be right. And I trust the coroners more than I trust Dr. Tedros. So this is a multi-year view of what influenza looks like at the WHO. And in weeks 11 through 14 of 2020, influenza disappears from Earth, including the United States, which you see here. And it's just gone. It's gone. Now, did it really disappear? Or could Dr. Fauci not hide what was about to happen here unless he had a boogeyman from China? This is Denmark. Influenza disappears in weeks 11 through 14 of 2020. It's gone for almost 2 years and then returns worse than Denmark has ever seen. No mention. Nothing in the news. This is Norway. It disappears in weeks 11 through 14 of 2020 and it's gone. No mention in the news of the disappearance of influenza. This is Sweden. So over 100 countries experience the same phenomenon. England. Whoa.
Jeez.
Yeah. Influenza disappears from Earth. And then we get to this other topic everybody's yakking about, which is excess deaths. Right? Everybody's saying excess deaths, excess deaths, excess deaths. Well, remember the surprise when I told you that the #1 comorbidity was P&I, not obesity or diabetes or something? Wouldn't it be weird if the thing that matched up with the all-cause mortality, excess deaths, wouldn't it be weird if the match was P&I? Wouldn't that be weird? Wouldn't it be weird if P&I was what was driving the all-cause mortality, excess deaths? Wouldn't it be weird if it fit better than OJ's glove? That's what's happened, my friend. There were 2 pandemics. The one from Walter Reed is the one that killed 7 million people. The one from Wuhan was the patsy.
Yeah.
That's the red herring. And that's the one that as long as Congress is talking about it, everybody's wasting time.
Yeah.
Now, the other way you hide a pandemic, by the way, is you don't put the strain of the virus that you're trying to hide. Don't put that in the PCR test. Okay? So if you're trying to hide one of these nasty strains like this 1918 virus or something, don't put it in the PCR test. So as a magician, if I want to make sure that you do not choose the Jack of Hearts from a deck of cards, I'm going to fan out a deck of cards, and I just cannot have you pick the Jack of Hearts. What's the easiest way for me to do that? Take the Jack of Hearts out of the deck of cards and get rid of it. Now I can hand you the deck. I can have you shuffle the deck.
Yeah.
You can shuffle it 10 times, 20 times, cut it 3 times, pick a card. I know for sure you're not going to pick the Jack of Hearts because there's no Jack of Hearts in the deck, dude.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to hide the strain. I'm not going to put it in the PCR test. Who provides the PCR manufacturers with the strains? Dr. Fauci.
Oh.
Is he going to give them the BSL-4 strain to put in a PCR test? No. You think they've got any Kawaoka strain? This guy builds the deadliest viruses on Earth. He takes a virus and makes it 100 times more deadly. You think any of those are in the PCR tests? Of course not. That's how you hide a pandemic. You don't put the stuff in the PCR test. Now, if it came from US AMRID originally, right, Fort Detrick, might that explain the military response? Might that explain Operation Warp Speed and why we had to get the military involved and what the hell are all these generals doing here? What's all that about? It's a respiratory infection. What are all the guys in the green outfits for? Where'd they come from? What'd they have to do with this? We're talking about a respiratory infection. Is this what we're dealing with? Oh, you guys are here because we're cleaning up your mess. Okay, so we're cleaning up your mess. So Ray Kurzweil kind of predicted this in 2005. He said this was going to happen. And he even nailed it. He said 5 to 10 million people are going to die. 2005, New York Times. You know, I don't know what to say. This guy, Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, comes out. He's freaking out. First couple weeks in March, he's like, we've never seen anything like this. People's lips are blue. The ventilation, that's not it. He's like, that's not working. They aren't processing oxygen. They don't need more pressure. They're breathing. They can go in and out. It's not their diaphragm. They're not processing oxygen. They're suffering from cyanosis, hypoxia. It's like altitude sickness. That's the Blue Death. That's what they called the 1918 H1N1 influenza, was called the Blue Death because it made people's lips turn blue. That's what he describes. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God. They've got 2 viruses out there. And the one this guy's describing, that's the one that just killed everybody. That's the deadly one. And that's the one from Walter Reed, from Fort Detrick. And it's not in the PCR test. This is what we call the modus operandi. This is in magic. This is how you do the trick. There's only 5 strains of influenza in the BioFire PCR test. So all the physicians think they're testing for flu. And they're testing for the 5 most innocuous strains of flu. Are they testing for H5N1? No, it's not in there. Are they testing for H3N8? No, it's not in there. Are they testing for H7N9? No, not in there. Are they testing for reconstructed 1918 BSL-4 H1N1 reconstructed pandemic influenza? No, it's not in there. Anything Kawaoka has ever done is not in there. This is a commercial PCR packet, you know. They don't have the deadliest viruses on Earth in the thing. In fact, tuberculosis isn't in here. You could be sick as a dog with TB, go in and get this PCR test, and they'll say, no, Tommy, you're fine. You're good to go, bro. You're fine. No, we tested you for all this stuff. You're fine. Wait, I don't know why you're complaining. Tuberculosis isn't in here. H5N1's not in here. H3N8 is not in here. H7N9 is not in here. You want to know how to hide a pandemic? Don't put the strain in the PCR test. You want to take some questions?
No, I'm just kind of reeling. So, but if
Could you hide? Could you hide? Could you hide one pandemic behind another one, Dr. Fauci?
Yeah.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
So then the question then comes down to is, well, then why did he release the original, or was it an accident?
Well, on the day that Hillary Clinton said we really should have mail-in voting, that was March 18th of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We had 191 people dead, not 200 people dead in America. And Hillary's worried about voting in November. And it's
But
March.
if we're talking about the blue one, then that was there that was the year prior.
That was a secret. Nobody knows about the blue thing.
No, so, but I'm asking about why did Fauci do this then?
So what I'm telling you is when Hillary says we really need to move to mail-in voting.
Yeah.
That she showed her hand. She showed her cards. What do I mean? There's not 200 people dead, Cookie Puss. Yeah. You were supposed to wait till there's 10 or 20,000 dead. And then everybody's panicking and saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? And Hillary can come to the rescue with her great idea. Say, you know what? In order to be safe, we really should do vote by mail. But she can't keep it in her pants. So with 191 people dead in the country, she says we should vote by mail? And I'm going, what? Honey, there's not 10 people dead in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing. There's not 200 people dead in America. And you're worried about voting in November? The hell are you worried about that for? I think you jumped the gun. I think you're supposed to wait a couple more weeks. But you were afraid Barack was going to say it.
So then the whole thing was what? It's a coup attempt to remove the president?
You can't have vote by mail if you don't have a pandemic.
Yeah.
So the way to ensure a pandemic, Dr. Fauci's like, well, you want a pandemic, baby. I got pocket aces.
Yeah.
I got pocket. Yeah, you want a pandemic.
You call me.
I got what you need.
Yeah.
I'll shut this thing down. Okay. Now Fauci's got, and he predicts it. He can't keep it in his pants either. He's at Georgetown telling everybody you're going to have a surprise outbreak. Then, with less than 200 people dead, Hillary's calling for vote by mail? Honey, that's your tell. You're supposed to wait till there's 20, 30, 40,000 dead. And then come up with a solution. 200 people dead. More people died the previous week in the delivery room. More children die in the delivery room on a weekly basis in America than... It's like there's no comparison.
Yeah.
There's not 200 dead. She wants to do vote by mail. That was the tell. That's the primary motive of the pandemic. Everything else is what we call an ulterior motive. You needed a pandemic to have vote by mail. Now, this also explains why as soon as we had any sign of a potential therapeutic that might work, it had to get shut down. Has to get shut down. Doesn't matter if it was Zithromax. It wouldn't matter if it was amoxicillin. It can't work. It's dangerous. Amoxicillin could kill you. Zithromax could kill you, Tommy.
And then
do you know how dangerous Zithromax could be?
You launder that argument through saying you go, oh, the corporations didn't want it because they couldn't push their vaccine. That's not the right argument.
Well, but they're supporting it. So if they've got that ulterior motive. So
but again, it's the whole, it's India doing 9/11 and we're arguing about CIA. We're arguing, Pfizer shutting down ivermectin because they want to make money. And you're a conspiracy theorist. And the whole thing is like, no, we just can't have anyone surviving.
Well, what it was is they needed to have vote by mail in November.
Yeah.
And once we had vote by mail in November, they had this ability, or at least they believed that they had an edge if they could do vote by mail.
Yeah.
And so that was the primary motive. Everything else, all the other money, Moderna, Pfizer, all that,
that's
ulterior
all
motives.
That's all.
Exactly.
That's all window trappings.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I've tend to, me and one of my friends have been throwing these ideas back and forth, I think since 2020. I've always kind of believed that that's what the virus was for, was to remove. I mean, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to dislike Trump. The objective reality is there hasn't been a more universally hated president by existing powers since JFK.
No
Just what
doubt.
it is.
No
You don't have
doubt.
to like it. That's just history, man. He was bad for their business, and yeah,
And
I think
China went along with it. China said, "We'll help you guys. You tell us
we
what you
want, yeah,
need. You want some
yeah.
propaganda? You want some
Well,
footage of people
it's
dropping dead? And I got that. We'll make that for you. Piece of
listen, it's
cake."
the mob, the CIA, KGB. We all want Kennedy dead, right? So it's the same
Exactly.
shit. We all want Orange
You
Man.
got it. You got it. That's exactly the case. He was rubbing China's nose in it. We're winning on trade. He's tariffing the hell out of them. And they're like, you know what? We'd far prefer to get the Biden family in here. Tell us what you need. What do you guys want? You want some propaganda? You want some footage? You want us to, we'll build a field hospital out
Yeah,
here with the cranes? We'll blow you away with our propaganda.
yeah,
And that's what they did. And so now if you've got a faction within our intelligence apparatus that's helping the Biden campaign, which we now know that appears to be occurring, and they're working with the Chinese to come up with a narrative that there's this disastrous virus that's destroying China. And she's like, yeah, I'm on board. But Joe Biden never talks about the origin of the virus with Xi. They never discuss it. We never push it. Never been a topic. Got to ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, China says it came from Fort Detrick. That's what they say. Maybe China wasn't lying. I don't know. But I know that the map shouldn't have been all red. And I know that the WHO says that China has fewer people dead than Peru, according to the WHO. So, and with that, my friend, that's about all I've got for today's show. I can't thank you enough for having me on. I
that was
really appreciate
fucking
it.
brilliant, man. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
That's
I
my
hadn't,
pleasure.
I hadn't heard that take before, but it's, yeah. I mean,
Well, and there's more to it, but I'm out of time. Maybe another
oh
time I'll
sure,
tell you a
yeah,
little bit more. I'll tell you more about those field hospitals because we built field hospitals all over the country for 11 days, and then we put them away 11 days later.
yeah, yeah. We didn't use any of them. Yeah, brought in the Mercy, what the Navy ship, and just didn't fucking do anything with it. Yeah, we have all those field
Right.
hospitals in New York. Like no one was there. Yeah,
I'll tell you what those are for next time we get together.
let's do that. I'll shoot you an email. Let's schedule another one, man. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was great as fuck. I genuinely enjoyed that. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I can't thank you enough for your hospitality and having me on the show.
Yeah,
Thank you
sure
so
thing,
much,
man.
and
Thank you for your time.
it's my pleasure.
Well, yeah, dude. Let's wrap this bitch up. I gotta prep for the next one. I'll send you an email. Let's schedule another one. And yeah, thank you for your time, guys. Go in the description. Go follow them on YouTube. Go follow them on Rumble. Because YouTube will inevitably destroy you because well, they're destroying everyone. I've been off there for almost 2 years now, not from my choice, but go follow them on Rumble. Get that channel going, and go give them a follow on YouTube. And I'm gonna try out the bedtime playlist tonight because you have a very relaxing voice. I'm absolutely gonna try that out.
Cool.
That's
That's
what I
great.
mean.
Also,
I mean,
that's
yeah,
great. There's a whole bunch of bedtime stories. All the thumbnails are blue on the
yeah.
channel.
No, I
The other
found the
way you can
playlist.
find the channel, so yeah, let me tell everybody the other way to find the channel. If you type in youtube.com/, and then you put at I am John Cullen, it'll take you to the channel. And then if you want to look at my stuff on Twitter, I'm very active on Twitter. It's at I_am_John Cullen. And that's how you can find me on Twitter.
Let me
So-
make sure I get your Twitter in there because I don't think I think I put your your YouTube and your Rumble in the description. So let me make sure I get the Twitter in there.
So it's at I_am_John Cullen.
Let's see. Let's go. I think I found you. Yeah, I got it. All right. All right, I'll put your
Thank you so
Twitter in
much.
there. Yeah, and
Super.
I'm gonna email you the link to the Rumble or to this. Can you post that on your Twitter? And I just
Of course.
followed
Of course.
you.
Of course.
And for everybody
Of course.
listening, I just put his Twitter in the description. So the link's in there. You can just click on it. You can just click on the link to YouTube. You can click on the link to Rumble. It's all right there, served up for you. So don't be lazy. Just click on the button. Go give him a follow. I'm delivering it to your front door. Just go give him a follow. And yeah, man, I'm gonna send you an email right now, and we'll schedule the next one.
Thank you, Tommy. Really
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it. Thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.